The desert stretched endlessly, a sea of gold under two burning suns. The wind carried with it the hiss of shifting sands, and far in the distance the earth trembled, not with the footsteps of armies, not with the rumble of machines, but with the hidden slither of something vast. The sandworm. A beast older than dynasties, older even than the starfaring empires that now claimed dominion over this world. They laughed at him when he first stepped forward. A thin figure, shoulders stooped, armor patched and rusted, his weapon a relic from centuries past. A human, the last of his kind on this forgotten planet, or so they believed. Around him, towering aliens in gleaming plate and flowing banners sneered. "The worm will eat him before he can even scream," one alien knight muttered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. Another, clad in violet robes trimmed with silver, shook her head. Her crown of jagged crystal marked her as the alien queen herself. Her golden eyes glimmered with cruel amusement as she studied the frail human. "Let him try," she said, her voice silk over steel. "Perhaps his death will buy us a moment of distraction." But then the desert wind shifted, and all eyes turned toward the dune-cracked cage at the center of the arena. Inside, bound in chains of silver light, knelt the one reason the world had gathered here, the alien princess. Her beauty was not of fragile delicacy, but of flame and defiance. Her eyes, green as fractured emeralds, held both fury and despair. She had been promised to the alien king, a union that would cement alliances and end a war. Yet whispers in the court claimed she had lied about her loyalty, lied about her heart, lied even about the human who now stood ready to fight for her. "You are nothing," the queen had told him once in the shadowed halls of her throne room. "A relic of a dying race. A man whose ancestors were too weak to claim the stars. My daughter will marry a king, not a forgotten savage." But now, as the ground thundered and the sands erupted like the sea in a storm, that same queen leaned forward upon her throne of stone. Her lips parted not in scorn, but in the first trace of unease. For from beneath the desert the monster stirred. The sandworm. Its body rose in a coil larger than palaces, a mountain of flesh armored in scales the size of ships. Its maw gaped open, a ring of teeth spiraling inward toward a darkness that seemed to lead straight into the void. The roar it unleashed was not sound, but a living storm, air ripping, stone cracking, hearts faltering. The alien princess screamed as her cage toppled, the chains binding her dragging her toward the pit where the worm's shadow fell. The courtiers shrieked and stumbled back, banners tearing free in the gale. Knights raised their weapons but none dared step forward. None save the human. He moved without hesitation, his feet sinking deep into the treacherous sands. His armor clattered with every step, the sun glaring off its battered plates. The aliens jeered louder, but their voices faltered as he did not slow, even as the worm's maw opened wide enough to swallow the cage whole. "Stop," the queen cried, though she did not know if she spoke to the beast or to the man. The human did not stop. His gaze never wavered from the princess, her eyes wide with terror and desperate hope. "You lied," he whispered, not to her, but to the world, to those who had mocked him, to the queen who had spat upon his name. "They all said humans were weak. They laughed at our fall. But today..." He planted his feet as the sandworm's shadow consumed him. He lifted his weapon, a spear of old steel, its haft scarred, its blade dulled. Yet when the sun struck it, for one fleeting moment, it gleamed like fire reborn. "Today you will pray." The worm struck. Sand exploded in every direction, the ground breaking open as its bulk surged forward. The air turned to storm, and the courtiers screamed as towers of sand collapsed around them. For a heartbeat, the human vanished beneath the shadow of jaws that could have devoured armies. And then, with a roar not of fear but of defiance, he leapt. The spear found flesh. The worm bellowed, its scream tearing across the desert. Blood the color of molten gold erupted, splattering across the sands, across the princess's chains. The creature thrashed, dunes collapsing like waves beneath its fury. The alien knights, for all their armor and banners, could only watch in disbelief. The queen rose from her throne, her golden eyes wide with something she had never known when looking upon a human, fear. The princess, her wrists bleeding where chains cut deeper with every quake, looked at the human with something else. Not just hope. Not just gratitude. But recognition. For he had come when no one else dared. He had fought when all others mocked. He had bled when all others stayed safe behind walls and lies. Human, she cried, her voice breaking through the storm. Save me. And in her cry was more than desperation. There was a vow, a promise yet unspoken, one that would defy queens, kings, and even empires. The worm twisted, the spear snapping, and the human was thrown across the sands. Blood streaked his brow, his armor cracking. He struggled to rise even as laughter returned to the lips of those who had mocked him. But the princess's voice still reached him. And for that voice, he would rise again. The desert was chaos. The sandworm thrashed, its body coiling across the horizon like a living mountain. Each time it struck the ground, the earth shuddered, cracks splitting through the dunes and swallowing banners, stones, and warriors alike. The alien queen gripped the arms of her throne, her golden eyes locked on the human. She had thought his charge nothing more than a fool's death, an amusing distraction before her daughter was consumed. But now, as she saw the worm's ichor spilling across the sand where his broken spear had struck true, doubt crept into her regal heart. Impossible, she whispered. A human cannot wound the sand god. Not him. The courtiers around her muttered nervously. Some began to chant prayers to forgotten deities, others whispered in fear of omens. The alien king, towering in his crimson armor at the queen's side, snarled. This is no miracle. It is a fluke. End it before his weakness shames us all. But his words faltered as the worm reared once more, and the human rose again. He staggered to his feet, armor torn and blood running down his cheek. His weapon lay shattered behind him, half buried in the sand. He had nothing but his hands, his will, and the fire that burned inside him, a fire that centuries of alien rule had failed to snuff out. The princess's chains rattled as the worm dragged her cage closer to its gaping maw. Her emerald eyes locked with the human's, and for a moment, everything else fell silent. She remembered the lies she had spoken. Lies whispered to keep him away, to keep him safe. She had denied knowing him, denied the nights when they spoke under the shattered moons, denied the promise she had once begged him to make. For if the truth had been revealed, the queen would have killed him long ago. But now, seeing him stand again, she wept. Don't you dare fall, human. Don't you dare leave me. The queen heard the words and her fury burned. Ungrateful child, she roared, her voice cutting through the storm. You will marry the king as promised. No human shall touch you, no human shall claim you. The king's voice rumbled like thunder. He is nothing. Kill him, and this farce ends. But the desert itself seemed to rebel against their decree. The worm lunged again, its maw swallowing half the horizon, and the human ran, not away, but toward it. He leapt upon the collapsing cage, his fingers bleeding as they clawed at the silverlight chains. The princess gasped as his shadow fell over her. You came, she whispered. I will always come, he answered, straining against the chains. Sparks burned his hands, magic etched to hold even kings at bay searing into his flesh. But he did not let go. The worm's roar split the sky. Its maw opened wide, teeth spiraling down into infinity. The air pulled everything toward it like a black hole, sand, stone, banners, bodies. The cage rattled loose, sliding toward the abyss. The queen rose to her feet at last, her regal mask cracked. Do something, she screamed at her knights. Save the princess. But none moved. None dared. For in their eyes, it was already over. Only the human held on. With a final cry, he tore one chain free. The princess stumbled into his arms, clutching at him, as if he were her last breath of life. The worm's shadow swallowed them both. And then the earth split beneath them. The human drove the broken chain into the worm's flesh, using it as an anchor as the beast thrashed. With one arm he clung to the chain, with the other he held the princess tight. The worm howled, its scream shaking the very sky. From the dunes, the aliens gasped. Some fell to their knees in awe, others screamed that the sand god had been defiled. But all could see the truth, the human did not fall. He stood against the impossible. The queen's voice broke through the chaos. This cannot be. He is weak. He is nothing. Yet her words trembled, and for the first time in her reign, fear cracked her regal tone. The princess pressed her forehead to the human's chest, her tears mingling with the blood on his armor. I lied, she whispered, so soft that only he could hear. I told them I didn't love you. I told them you meant nothing. But it was a lie. Every word was a lie. The human's breath came ragged, his body trembling under the strain of holding back the storm. But when he looked down at her, his gaze was steady. I know, he said. And still I came. The worm reared again, its fury shaking the desert apart. But this time, the human's fire burned brighter. He reached for the broken spear lodged in the worm's side. With a roar that echoed across the dunes, he pulled it free, the blade glowing with golden blood. The princess gasped as he lifted it high, as if it were no longer steel, but a weapon forged of starlight and defiance. For every laugh, he shouted, his voice carrying even above the storm, for every lie, for every time you said humans were weak, this is our answer. And with a strike born not of strength but of will, he drove the blade deep into the worm's heart. The desert exploded. Sand geyser.